Going on, my friends? Welcome to your seat at the table. I'm Rick, and of course, I got Gray and White Mama's tail sitting right over here. We are looking at a Shadowrun product called Tir Tairngire, and I'm sure I'm butchering the pronunciation of it by a Nigel D. Findley, who did a lot of products for for FASA back in the day. So we have a nation of the future built on the traditions of the past. Shadowrun's second edition, 7210. So this would have been originally for second edition. I bought it, didn't care what edition it was, because I really enjoyed the regional source books that were coming out that helped to build on the Seattle sandbox. So we had more places, further places, places for our player characters to travel to and travel from, and et cetera, and which was always a great thing as far as I'm concerned. The more the merrier, right? And so we look at it and we got a slew of things. So Tir Tairngire, one of the interesting concepts of Shadowrun was this ideal that we brought fantasy settings from traditional D&D, for example, to the near future cyberpunk era or cyberpunk genre. And so at the time, there was Ireland and there was Portland and the region around Portland that were considered Elvish nations, which all things considered, and this comes up repeatedly in the book about how the elves have this philosophy and this concept in their head that they actually are pre-generator race that come from thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, and that were suppressed, or their gene pool was magically altered for the current cycle, 1,000-odd-year Mayan cycle, or whatever the reasonings was. And so when they talk about things like this well-established language and this culture that in reality only existed maybe 18 or 20 years, to the point where we get in here. So they haven't been around that long. And so the idea that they're this long-lived ancient race is mostly in their heads as far as anybody that cared to look into that stuff. Mama, I know, but you can't get up on my shoulder. I'm not Mama. She tried. My wife likes to have her up on her chest and shoulder, and I don't want her doing that right now. It's just not space enough for it as it is. So we're looking at first impressions, how it came to be, the politics, the society, the economy, telecommunications, laws, the Peace Force, Portland proper, Salem, Eugene, and so on. So we look at the categories, etc. All right, let's just take a gander down the book. I really enjoyed it, and I've read this book numerous times, and I haven't really tapped it for any other settings because I haven't had an opportunity or need to, but it sure added another level of flavor to the Shadowrun universe as far as I was concerned. Yes, Mama. What you gonna do? You just gonna sit there on the edge? Okay. She's watching something. What you watching? Somebody in there? Did you see somebody out through the door? See, last winter, it gets kind of chilly in this room. So last winter, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in the past, that I cut some holes in the door over here and put vents in it so it would allow, and I turned the vents vertical, not side this way. So there's two of them where the inner slats are on this interior door. That way, airflow comes in and out of the room, and she can look out the window. She can look out those and see and interact limitedly with some of the other cats in the house and not have a problem. Because, like I said, Mama is a bit of a special needs cat. We don't know exactly what all went down with her. She's doing pretty good in here. But if you let her out with the general pop, and I hate to refer it that way because it kind of has this prison vibe, and it bothers me more than I like to admit. Having, it just does. I know we don't let her be in total isolation. We do take her out of the room occasionally, but anytime she interacts with Sissy or Cece, they pick on her something terrible, and she ends up, hiding under furniture for days. And I don't like that. I don't like her being stressed like that. So, at a glance, first impressions, the average population is roughly 5.6 million inhabitants, with about 1% or less are human, 85% are elf, 7% are dwarf, 5% are orc, trolls are negligible, and other 2%. The thing is that they're called the Tir Tairngire setup this siren call to all metahumans to come here and be free. And reality was they meant mostly the elves. And while they did have an open door for dwarves and to a limited number orcs, because orcs always have an advantage, the truth is there's nothing about equal opportunity or equal treatment under the law to, walk hand in hand with absent racism, which is something our country today is going to destroy our country. This internal racism and hatred that's been in our country for 200 odd years since its conception, and it's never been addressed properly. Under Lyndon Johnson and Martin Luther King during the 60s, they did great strides to that, but we did not do enough in my mind. And now that is part of an underlying problem that we have. But that's my personal opinion, and enough of that politics for the moment. Let's see. So we have, and you don't have to agree with what I have to say. It's my opinion. I always understand other people's opinions and accept them as limited as I can, because some people's straight out hatred for another race is BS. It's just pure BS. You're either a good human being or you're not, and we're now proving that day after day after day. I really get stressed out by this stuff. All right, so we talk about their currency, get around laws and law enforcement. No, you can't get on my shoulder. Sorry, Mama, but you can't get on my shoulder. You'll get in trouble. And I'm not having you flipping around and having your seizure in front of on me again. So medical services, Portland proper. Yes, let's see. Portland services interface between the Tir Tairngire and the rest of the world. The city provides the nation's only opportunity for visitors to work, and then for brief periods of time. So geography. It is an independent sovereign nation located on the west coast of North America, roughly covering the area that once was the state of Oregon. Its total landmass is approximately 266,000 square kilometers, including more than 1,500 square kilometers of inland water surface. Tir Tairngire's national boundary follows the border of the 20th century Oregon to the north, continuing as far east as Gregville in Idaho. From there, the border angles toward the southwest, traveling 12 kilometers west of Boise, where it reaches the Black Rock Desert and the former state of Nevada. From there, it heads almost directly west, passing through the town of Redding in the old state of California. So we including Crater Lake, which has some mystical, magical properties that they imply. How it came to be, all right? So it says events of the years 2009 2018 need no review. Everyone alive today knows the history of Lone Eagle incident, the subsequent relocation of the American Indians to the re-education camps, the genocide campaign, the Great Ghost Dance, and the Treaty of Denver. Everyone is familiar with the breakup and consolidation of the United States and Canada and the forming of the Native American nations. Far fewer people know about the events leading up to the creation of the Tir. This situation is hardly surprising. Most of these events took place masked by impenetrable cloaks of secrecy that have yet to be lifted. Most Tir citizens know the general events, but not even they remain unaware of the specifics. Those involved took great care when revealing such sensitive information and continue to hide the deepest extent of their involvement in events. The territory that is now the Tir originally belonged to the Salish Shadowrun Council Nation. From its formation in 2018 to around 2023, the Salish Shadowrun was less of a true nation than a loosely knit confederation of distinct tribes, the Makah, the Salish, the Cascade Crow, and others. In the southern regions of the council, formerly Oregon, or their northern never mind. I'm starting to get sidetracked. Yes, I know. I just got up from a nap. Immigration, the promise. Other charismatic individuals came to the fore when Walker Brightwater died, hoping to fill the vacuum. In his passing, among those individuals were three young elves who later became major figures in the Tir: Atherin Forrest, Sean Laverty, and Lou Sherhan. As old Walter Brightwater, these three appeared to be as if by magic. To this day, nobody knows where they were born or anything about their lives prior to 2030, though their speculation abounds, right? So, anyhow. A couple pictures of those fine fellers there, or the same feller in different renditions. Their independence, yeah, right. So the elves reestablished the entire infrastructure of the cities, power grids, etc., and enhanced them. So the average, for example, the inhabitants of the tier work about 500 hours less per corporate hours less per year than anywhere else on the North American continent. The average income is about 20% higher than what you would find in any of the other, like Portland or Seattle, for example. And it goes to the bottom. Everybody does well in the tier. Lots of people have extra hours and extra cash or extra nunion to spend on luxuries and leisure, which created a bunch of unique job opportunities within the tier. So probably 80%, 50%, it's between 50 and 80% of the economy is based off of what we might call gig work today or small mom and pops. So you have, and a lot of the stuff is very, what would you call it? Uh, Oh, I know this term, but it's just kind of frou-frou, kind of a frou-frou kind of thing. For example, one individual or might have a small company that has five other people working for them, and their sole income is providing holistic scented candles that will do this, that, and the other thing, etc. Or provide services and in the ways of, like, the masseuse but to a much deeper level of, like, the mental masseuse or the crafter of ambient music that suits your tones, to an outfit that will bio tweak the music so it works specifically for your genetic makeup. So that way you get even more deeper whatever out of it. And this sort of stuff would not normally do well in a less than prosperous nation, because there would be very few people to support it. The more people that support something like that, the better chances for that to exist. So talk about the California War. No, I don't want you up on my shoulder. Fledgling nations goes on. Some beautiful artwork here. Uh, right. Loper, the great dragon, seizes it, casts its fathomless gaze on Portland, and right up onto my shoulder you went anyway. Oh, Jesus. Just what I need you. Just don't pee up there. All right. The tier rite of passage and brings an elf into manhood and responsibility. Along the border, a tier patrol prepares the night for a night's fireworks. Ethrin, the scribe, writer, and social theorist, exerts a mysterious influence over the tier. Competition of spirit and form. The tier elves undergo the rite of progression. And travel tip number 38: when in Portland, take a cab. Right. One of the things I always loved about this late 80s, early 90s vibe that came with Shadowrun was this homage to the rocker 80s. Oh my God, the hair, the facial makeup, the freaking, you know what I'm talking about. So we had a chapter on politics. To the outsider, the Tier's national government looks like a confusing cross between hereditary monarchy and feudalism, with fragments of a democratic process thrown in as leavening or a social political pacifier. Outsiders encountering the Tier government come away with an overall impression of something exotic, charged with mystery and surrounded by an aura of glamour. This, of course, is exactly the result that the founders of the Tier set out to achieve. Their new nation gave them a blank slate upon which to write. No traditions dictated their choices. They were free, which you hear that. No traditions dictated their, yet throughout the Tier, this implication that Elvish traditions are eons old, that they go way back. So we got the Council Princes, Enter the Dragon. The next addition to the Council surprised most subjects of the Tier and all foreign observers. The Council Princess named Lofir, the Great Dragon, as one of its number, granting it the responsibilities and authority associated to the title of Prince. Even inside the Tier, little is known of the reasons for elevating Lofir to the lofty position of Prince, but it is a move created by the public conflict and the Council. Yeah. A lot of Why would you put a dragon on the council kind of stuff? Why wouldn't you? It's better to have them on your side than working against you. The high prince and the council. So and so the tier is a monarchy. Don't think it's not. It is a monarchy. Then they have the paladins that serve the monarchy, the Star Chamber where the Congress, their version of Congress meets, internal affairs, rights and privileges, treason, challenging the government, foreign relations, the Tir and Tir Nan Og. So Tir Nan Og is the Ireland equivalent Elvish nation. So the relationship between the Tir Tairngire and the Tir Nan Og, formerly Ireland, seems confusing and contradictory to the outside observers, and only slightly less to the subjects of the Tir. Perhaps even the Council of Princes still wonders the exact form of the relationship. In theory, the Tir Nangor Og, the former Ireland, became a nation before the Tir did. And so there was a lot of little brother looking up to big brother in the early years of the Tir, but that's changed and continues to change. They feel themselves on equal terms now than they were before. So you got political profiles: Lou Sheerhan, that thing, Oak Forest, Scene Leverty, Sean. I never quite know how that's supposed to be pronounced. Ephraim the Scribe. Uh, what are you doing now, huh? You come back down here? Come on. No? She's just perched right on my shoulder. Jenna Natura. And we get to tier society, race. Yeah, the tier created a social structure from a hodgepodge of cultural traditions, making it unique in modern world and drastically different from the social climate of the UCAS and Seattle. With nothing to compare it to, it becomes almost impossible to describe the social structure in the tier in recognizable terms. This file attempts to highlight the most important and unique aspects of the tier society by presenting each topic as a subsection. I will attempt to show how each topic fits, etc., etc. So we got race. When the elves announced the Tir's independence, they proclaimed it a haven for all metahumans of the oppressed victims of all the oppressed victims of the blind human prejudice and xenophobia. Orc, troll, dwarf, elf, the Tir character welcomed every metahuman race. Examining present-day Tir, however, proves the charter was a sham or is a sham. Various factors, like I said, you might be welcome, but you're not equal, not in the eyes of the elves. Discrimination, wonderful thing that racism, even fantasy, still exists. The majority, right of pronouncement, rite of passage, social rank, gentry, which is the lowest rank, comprising vast majority of ordinary subjects. Both male and female gentry are formally addressed as squire. Gentry pay the highest taxes and suffer the most restrictions. Then we get the chivalry. The numbers of subjects named members of the chivalry class equal the approximately 1/5 of the number of gentry. The chivalry are officially addressed as sir or damsel. And then we have the nobles, and then a committal rank, the ducal rank, and the royal rank. And then it goes on about royal life. Talks about inherited rank, right of progression, bureaucratic testing, physical testing. The thing about tier, one of the things is everybody goes through testing. So if you want to better your position in society, you have to pass a bunch of tests. You have to prove you're worthy of that elevation. Yeah, I want to say evolution, right? Right. So physical testing, lobbying, etc., and the results. Yeah, I'm not gonna read into the details on that. Challenging the right, the high prince fiat, meaning if you're in the prince category, you get to you and yours get to dance past all this other. They just kind of tongue in cheek kind of testing, certification and testing, pomp and circumstance, language. The tier takes an irrational approach to language. The official language of the nation is Spirhil, the Elven tongue. However, because those who can speak or understand the language are largely limited to the cornetal rank or higher, English remains the common language of business and social interactions. Only most prestigious schools, etc., etc. So not every. So even within language in the tier, there's classes and categories. So verb forms, noun forms, the glossary key. You want to really get into it. Entertainment, triad, magic. Magic use pervades the Tir at a higher level than virtually any other North American country, with the possible exception of the transpolar Elven Nation. Studies show proportionally more magically active individuals in the Tir than anywhere else in the world. Well, one of the things is when you have a lot of extra money and a lot of extra time on your hands, gives you opportunities to have great hobbies and to really invest yourself in them. And this would be, magic in some aspects is a hobby, and it's encouraged at the base level, and because they're looking for people that shine and move up, and eventually you can dabble and you become a master. Depends on how you want to look at it. So we talk about entertainment, trividio, hurling, arts, arts education, the Irish connection. We had a chapter on economy, the national economy. Yeah, imports and exports, standard of living, right? So the Council of Princes frequently boasts about the tier's high standard of living, and even the Council's opponents admit the truth of these claims. The standard of living in the nation is high and climbing steadily. Annual per capita income stands about 35,000 Nunyon compared to Seattle's at least at 25,000 Nunyon. On the average, a worker spends no more than 1,500 hours per year at work compared to Seattle's figure well over 2,000. These statistics mean the average Tir subject has more disposable income and enjoys more than 500 extra hours of leisure time per year than his counterpart in Seattle. Conversely, the cost of living is low compared to Seattle. Accommodations cost on average 4/5 of what they cost in the Seattle Metroplex. Even the greatest detractors admit the Tir is a rich country. And it goes, here's a little breakdown of some of their prices. So, ammunition is 95%, so it's 5% cheaper in the Tir than it is elsewhere. So is armor. You get down into things like lifestyle is 80%. So you have a 20% advantage over everybody outside the Tir. Vehicles are a little more expensive because they want to control, keep the uh, pollution and sound pollution to a minimum when they can. The corporate presence. There's, unlike Seattle, which is a corporate hub, a world corporate hub, the Tir has a number of internal corporations that are Elvish based, and outside of that, far fewer international corporations have the clout that they do in other nations, such as where Seattle, for example. And it goes into great detail on that in here. We're not going to touch on that because telecommunications. The Tir takes pride in its telecommunications network, one of the most sophisticated and reliable in the world. The Tir regional telecommunication grid uses hardware, software, algorithms years, perhaps decades ahead of the UCAS system. The grid can handle its current traffic loads with absolutely none of the switching delay familiar with Seattle telecom users. Right? So the Tir matrix, which is also a step above the average, in part because they have more highly capable and highly talented uh, software developers and hackers, and because they invest in the technology. So that if you're going to have a richer nation, you're going to have a richer matrix. And with all that comes with the security levels for the Tirs matrix are very high, much higher than what you would find in Seattle, for example. So keep that in mind, Deckers, if you're going to start mucking around in the Tir. Then we got laws, immigration, applying for immigration, work visas, personal invitations, student visas, visitor visas, leaving the country, travel, immigration. Then we get a subsection on criminal law. The Tir is the law. The princes create the law. And control weapons and equipment, cyberware, cyberdex, dealing, additives or addictives, civil security, border information, civil law, ancient traditions. That's the one that really gets a chuckle out of when you look at it. The Tier society has established several ancient traditions that most people follow, even as though they carry the weight of law, compensation, vouchsafing, challenge. These traditions are not laws, but they are. But no one may break them with impunity. For more than the more civilized Tier subjects scorn anyone who refuses to abide by these traditions. All right. And then we got an entry in here by Hardesty. Just hold on, just hold it a minute here. Where are these ancient traditions coming from, for frag's sake? The Tier's been around for 18 years, and the metatype that founded it has only existed for 42 years. How ancient can the Tier or Elvish traditions be? Hardesty, right? Then we get a response here. They they the way I read it, these ancient traditions are like the rituals of Freemasonry, based upon rites that really did exist thousands of years ago. Despite what the Masons and the Elves like to believe, of course, they cannot simply establish a continuity of tradition. The main point is to borrow respect from antiquity. Raff, entry by Raff. So compensation, challenge. Then we get a subsection on organized crime. Organized crime works in the Tier works more like a corporation. The gangs are more like corporations. So you're not gonna see the traditional mafia, although the mafia in modern state in the more modern American concept of mafia since the last 40 years is that they run a lot like a corporation. That would be fitting. And then of course you have street gangs, and in the Tier they have fewer of them, but they're much more high quality. And so they list a bunch of them here, and I suspect some of these are just outlets for ambitious and rebellious youth, and that they're managed. But what do I know? The Tir Tairngire Peace Force. It goes on about how it's a small military and constabulary, quite capable, equipped with the best of the best, and a lot of cutting edge technology not open and available to the neighboring nations, which gives them an advantage. Military division, border patrol, and then a subsection on the ghosts, so the special forces, secret service kind of stuff. Top notch, what you would expect to be, really, really tough characters. Netwatch, of course, the Matrix's version of the police force. Then we have the entry for Portland itself, the government, Portland wall. So the city of Portland has a wall around it. Precincts, getting around Portland, places of interest, inns, hotels, nightclubs, other locations, government buildings, medical facilities, miscellaneous entries, Royal Hill, the Royal Palace, which is, more of a not a less of a compound and more of a mini city, So Salem, and another entrance in here for Eugene. Okay, Mama, can you not do that? She climbing around. You can't see her, but she's climbing all over my shoulders. I don't want her to fall off, and I don't want her to tear my back up if she does. Because, cats being cats, she loses her balance. She'll grab for anything she can, and that will include me. And while I have a shirt on, it's a thin shirt. We have an entry here for Eugene. Place of interest, other locations, open conference. So this is the commentary section by all the commentators. A lot like our current social media systems and all of our love to troll and comment and others and things like that. So there's a nice map of the Tier and some old merch you used to be able to buy for Shadowrun. So the Tiers, like I said, I really enjoyed these source books when they were coming out, and I bought as many of them as I saw at the time. The really, like I said, expands the sandbox setting for the Shadowrun, and of course, it's amusing now because they talk about the things that happened in 2018 and 2023, and we're there, we're past it. Just saying, there's some eerie commonalities that can be found in some of these games, and some of it's just thank God it didn't occur. And other times I would say I really wish it did occur because we would be in a completely different situation that we are facing today. I do not have a lot of faith in what's going on. And from a neopolitical point, you might want to go ahead and cut away. You probably already did it 5 minutes into the video. I'm trying to make these videos faster, but the faster you make a video, the less you cover. That's just the truth. You know, there might come a time down the road when I've covered everything I got and I'll start going back and cherry picking certain things and going into deeper dives, do hour-long dives on them and things like that. It is what it is. Really? You will fall asleep on my shoulder. I'm getting at an age where I'm starting to develop a bit of a hunch, especially when I've been sitting around. My body aches all the time. My back hurts. My feet hurt. I get that early onslaught neuropathy. You get the pins and needles, and sometimes I feel like the ground's unstable, and I got to watch my balance a little more. I turned 59 last month. Is what it is. What do you do? The situation today was what bothers me a lot is how much apathy is in the population around me. I live in, and if you've been following my channel for any length of time, you know I live in Iowa. I live right on the outskirts of Des Moines, Iowa. That's the state capital. I live literally within eyeball distance of the Bridgewood, the Bridgestone, the former Firestone factory. My dad spent 30 years working at, and the so little people. There's still a lot of misguided MAGA folks, but a lot of them have started to wake up to the realities of what they actually got. What they voted for was not what they got, and in their mindset, they really didn't expect it to go the route. Oh, he doesn't mean what he says. The man's a nut. Every day is increasingly more apparent he's unstable, and his physical and mental capacities are declining visibly month for month. You can see it. And he's surrounded himself with lick-spittle yes men, people who will do whatever he tells them to do. And the truth is, a lot of those people are using the man. A lot of those people are using our president for their own agendas that are heavily racist, heavily racist. And the idea that a sitting American president, any American president, sitting or not, has the audacity and the balls to suggest to send the U.S. military loose into our cities? Hello? Really think that's going to end well? Seriously. We're already being isolated from the rest of the damn world. And this is by design, on purpose. And it's a bad idea, a bad design. This has been done before, but not to this level, and surely not to this speed. I don't get it. I really don't get it. And we're quickly rolling into a dystopian, weird setting that I grew up playing games that danced around. So I see it. I can see it. And nobody gives a shit. Not enough people care yet. We got thousands of farmers in this state. Over 80% of them voted for this clown. 60, 70% of those people who voted are getting hammered. They honestly believe that they're going to get bailout. Part of me says they need this bailout. Part of me says, F them. These people, and most of these MAGA people, and if you're one of those MAGA people, piss off. Kick rocks. Cancel your subscription to my goddamn channel and go away. Because you people are insane. Unfortunately, I have a bunch of family and redneck relations and neighbors and associates that I know. I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, they're ignorant as the day is long, on purpose. And if your only avenue of source of material is Fox News, no wonder you're ignorant. You chose it. You want something that ain't ever going to happen. Instead, you're emboldened people who are going to do horrific things. Fascism never ends well. History proves this over and over and over again. Our science fantasy settings prove that over and over and over again. Oh, I hope you have a good holiday. I hope the Christmas is good for you. I guarantee you think the prices are high now. We ain't seen nothing. Things are going to get worse.